the Canadian Adaptive Climbing Society. So I think the next slide will just go over what we're going to talk about today. So thanks everyone for coming out and taking some time out of your day. Today we're going to talk about what is adaptive climbing. We'll introduce a little bit more about the Canadian Adaptive Climbing Society, talk about who can climb and the therapeutic benefits of climbing, and how to climb using some adaptive tools, programs, and we'll chat a little bit about some free try it sessions and how to get involved with CACS and how to get involved in climbing. So adaptive climbing. A sport is adaptive if an individual uses equipment or techniques to allow them to overcome barriers to participate in the sport. And with climbing, it's a very inherently adaptive sport. We use things like harnesses, we use climbing shoes that have grippiness on the bottom, we use belay devices and ropes to help get us up the wall. So adaptive climbing, we're really just using different techniques and tools to help address some of the barriers to climbing that some people may experience. So that is our mission at the Canadian Adaptive Climbing Society, is to create opportunities for people that might be living with barriers to benefit from climbing. Our vision is that everyone can climb because we believe that everyone can climb, and we're not just lifting people up the wall, but we're really getting people climbing and using some tools and equipment to help people address the barriers to climbing. So CACS is located in Vancouver and Toronto right now. So our programs are both indoor and outdoor. Most of our programs indoor in Toronto are at True North Climbing in Downsview Park. And we do run some outdoor programs in the summer when the weather is a little bit nicer. We don't have the snow out here. So who can climb? People that have come out to our programs include people with traumatic brain injury, with concussion, with spinal cord injury, stroke, etc. The list is long. Really, there's no one size fits all to adaptive climbing, and the way that we approach when people come into the program or to the try it sessions is just focusing on finding the right equipment, support, or systems that work best for each individual. Because as you can see, the list is long for some of the different barriers that people might experience to climbing. So we really try and individualize the supports that we provide. Sarah's going to talk a little bit more about some of the adaptive tools that we use.
So basically, when we're looking at adaptive climbing, we're looking at kind of what modifications might be required. So some of the pictures in the presentation before were, might have noticed different types of harnesses. So sometimes folks might require a harness that kind of attaches through the chest rather than at the waist, which is a little bit more of a conventional harness. We have all sorts of different ways to adapt if somebody has an impairment in grip, whether it's related to tone or related to strength. So a few kind of different things that we can tips and things that we can try, ways we can experiment to see what will work best for each individual. In this top picture, we see some climbing specific prosthetics, and this is really kind of a rapidly evolving and exciting area that's kind of coming out in terms of the terminal device for a prosthetic for people who have an amputation. So there is one commercially available shoe on the market, and I think there's a few more in development as well. So that's certainly something that our participants who have had an amputation might be interested in exploring a little bit more. And also for people who might have weakness or sensory issues, things like that, certainly each individual, we have the opportunity to offer them some different padding, knees, sometimes feet, and those we kind of do on a case-by-case basis. One of the tools that lets people participate kind of right out off the block is what's called a counterbalance system. So that's where we basically relieve some of the weight of the climber by using a pulley system so that somebody kind of sits in a chair and takes part of the climber's weight so that they can really focus on the technique and the skill of getting up the wall. So this is great for people who have weakness. It's also great for people who aren't necessarily sure how they will take to climbing, because it really lets them focus on the technique and the movement and the sensation of climbing without necessarily needing all of the strength that might be required to climb without the counterbalance. So even in people who don't have kind of specific weakness that might impair their climbing, this is often a good place to start as people are new to climbing and new to exploring this. Laura and I kind of feel very passionately about the therapeutic benefits of climbing, and we'll go through and highlight some of them specifically. This is a new area of treatment. Certainly, we're also looking at ways to get kind of this community out and climbing more and more. So I think we'll see more and more research here as we go. Mostly we're looking at kind of small case studies or anecdotal evidence or some stories from participants. But basically it's an opportunity to provide therapy without it being kind of boring and full of lots of repetitions. We firmly believe that the novel or new environment, so every movement is new, every experience is kind of unique, that's really good for neuroplasticity and promoting brain recovery. And then specifically, we look at the physical, the cognitive or thinking, the social, and the mental health benefits of climbing. So physically, basically it's a whole body activity. So you're using the whole body, and for lots of people, engaging muscles across different muscle groups is something that needs lots of practice. So keeping kind of arms turned on while cores turned on. So really thinking about our movement and our movement patterns. So it works on muscle activation and strength. It can work on balance. And it can work on balance in a way that really can help people who might have quite impaired balance on the floor or walking, or require even a gait aid or a wheelchair. But because of the harnessing system and the rope, we can look at ways to work on balance that gives people a lot more freedom of movement. So it's really nice way to explore balance outside of our typical kind of sitting and standing balance applications. We can work on range of motion, endurance, and there is a cardiovascular component to this type of exercise as well. One of the things, we think automatically of exercise and sport as being a very physical type benefit. But one of the things about climbing that makes it so interesting and makes it a novel opportunity each time is that there's a big cognitive or thinking component to climbing. So this is kind of just a real snapshot of some of the thinking benefits that we might see from participating in climbing. There are many more, and certainly climbing tasks can be tailored to target many specific cognitive impairments if that's something that an individual needs to work on. But these ones that we've listed here, so visualization, planning and decision making, problem solving, goal setting, attention, spatial awareness, language and communication, these are all important parts of climbing. And they're built into the climbing experience in a very kind of natural feeling way. So it doesn't feel synthetic or engineered. It's just part of kind of how we climb together. So for example, the language and communication, when we're climbing, the partnership between the belayer, the person in charge of the rope, and the climber is really important. And so even kind of exploring and ironing out exactly what that communication will look like between the person on the wall and the person in charge of the rope can be a really valuable therapeutic activity. And I think Laura's going to talk about these next couple.
Yeah. So climbing also has a lot of good mental benefits. Just being a physical activity that you could do with others inherently is healthy for your mental health, but it also is inherently mindful. Part of that is when you're on the wall, you're really forced to think about the moment that you're in, because you're looking at what hold am I going to next, or where are my feet going to go? So it's really forcing you to be present with your body in the moment. And that's something that we really focus on during the climbing programs, is trying to highlight that and practicing that mindfulness before you get on the wall, taking a deep breath and saying, where am I going to plan my route? Where am I going to plan my rest breaks when I'm on the wall? It can be also something that's really good for your confidence and self-esteem. Even if you don't get to the top of the wall, everyone's goals might be a little bit different. So you might be working on a specific move or a specific movement. Or if you do get to the top of a hard climb you've been working on for a long time, it feels really good to have that sense of accomplishment. And you also get to cheer other people on in terms of their accomplishments as well. So I think we'll go to the next one. in line with what I was just saying, encouraging and highlighting other people's accomplishments when you're in a group. Climbing has a lot of social benefits. When you're climbing, it seems like a very individual activity, but you're actually working with a partner. That belayer that Sarah talked about, that's supporting you. You have to have a lot of communication and trust between you two. So that builds a lot of that social aspect in climbing. And also when you're climbing with a group, you're talking about your day, you're talking about your climbs, you're talking about what worked and didn't work for you. So just having that social engagement and interaction with others in a fun and relaxing environment is really, really beneficial. So with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our 6-week program that we run. So it's a 6-week therapeutic program run by OTs. So myself and Sarah, as well as 2 other OTs that we have on the team. You can see the team below. We also have Jasa on the team, who is a mindfulness expert and is also the head of our peer mentor program. So she has been through an injury herself and found a lot of benefit through therapeutic climbing herself. The program is once a week. Oh, and yeah, Sarah, maybe if you want to jump in on this one, I think you're.
Yeah, sure. So, so when we're looking at this 6-week therapeutic program, we get a lot of our clientele through our try it sessions that we'll talk a little bit more later. But basically, you can be referred to this program. You could, kind of advocate to join this program yourself. Basically, what it is a 6-week session. We don't typically run on weeks that have a stat holiday, but 6 weeks of therapeutic climbing. So 2.5-hour sessions at True North and Downsview Park. OTs kind of are guiding each session, guiding specific goals for each individual, and also facilitating a group dynamic. We do welcome support people at those programs as well. So whether that's a family, a friend, a support worker, whoever kind of you would like to bring along. And our kind of 2.5 hours looks like an introductory mindfulness check-in, a little bit of kind of starting the day off with intention and with some social engagement, a warm-up, some exercises, and then we kind of move towards some goal-directed climbing activities. So that will be really dependent on what each individual's goals might look like. So at the beginning, middle, and end of each session, there's an assessment component that's completed by the occupational therapist to guide some of the goals and things that happen throughout the program. I think I talked about all of this already, but and Laura touched on mindfulness as well. So we recognize that climbing is an inherently mindful sport. So paying attention to your body and what it's telling you in the moment that you're in, really trying to not focus too much on the past or the future, but be present in the moment. And so climbing encourages that, and we tend to and hope to build on that element of climbing and make that mindfulness part of not only our climbing experience, but our whole therapeutic programming, hoping that we can then take that mindfulness into our daily lives as well. So certainly that's a part of our beginning practice and something that we focus on as we go through the climbing session. And Jasa, our mindfulness expert, has kind of shared lots of knowledge with us about how the mindfulness can downregulate our nervous system, can have positive impacts on pain, on kind of lots of mental health concerns as well. So focusing on that while we're climbing has kind of lots of overflow benefits to other areas of our life that where we may be able to find some focus as well. So that looks like in practicality, focusing on breathing, focusing on body awareness, and really trying to be present in the moment. So lots of people who aren't sure if climbing is for them or not, before committing to 6 weeks, we do like, to people to come out. It gives us a chance to get to know some of our participants in advance and kind of gauge exactly how we'll support them best. And it also hopefully gets people really enthusiastic about climbing. So certainly over the last number of sessions, we've had really kind of high conversion of people who come to a try it session who then want to sign up for the therapeutic program. All of us believe, I think, that climbing has a really profound impact on us physically, emotionally, mentally. So we're the biggest advocates for climbing that you might find. So trying this opportunity to try it out is free. There is a fee associated with the therapeutic sessions, but the try it session is really to come and see if it's for you, before any kind of funds change hands or any financial commitments required. And our next try it session is Monday, April 4th from 10 to 2, again at True North Climbing Center in Downsview in Toronto. And certainly we think everybody should come out and try it at least once. It's really kind of a great opportunity, a super collaborative and cooperative environment, and an opportunity to do something new.
And I just wanted to jump in and say climbing can be very, very overwhelming and scary activity at first if it's something that you haven't tried before, or if it's like something that you're getting back to after an injury. So the try it sessions are really a way for you to have that support and that team who's going to figure out that system or the equipment that works for you to help you make you feel comfortable and safe in the activity. So definitely come to the try it session if you're thinking that it might be something that you're interested in. And I know that CACS in the future is hoping to have more recreational climbs. So if you feel like you want to come out to the try it session, but the therapeutic session program might not be for you, that's something that might be coming in the future as well. Sorry, Sarah.
Oh, that's good. So I think just on this slide, there's some different ways to contact us or follow along with some of our programming or the things that are happening for us. And as we kind of get into the swing of things post-pandemic, we're certainly getting more active on our social media platforms. So please do follow along and reach out to any of us. We're happy to answer any questions or connect people together. And basically, we're looking to grow adaptive climbing in Ontario as much as we can. Because certainly it's growing in Canada and internationally as well. So really neat opportunity to kind of try something new and maybe find something new that you're passionate about as well. And I think now we can maybe open up the floor if there are any questions.